Champions Cup semi-final number 2. It's 2 teams from pool number 1, so they're going to meet for a third time in this one Champions Cup season. Leinster and Toulouse, so it was the winner and the runner-up from that pool. They both finished with the same record in the pool play. It was 5 wins and a loss. They both kind of traded losses with each other because Leinster lost in round 2 over in France, and then Toulouse lost to Leinster at the RDS in round number 5. Those games were relatively close. The first one especially, 28 points to 27. The second one was a little bit more comfortable, 29-13 to Leinster. Kind of comfortable winners, actually. But yeah, it's a pretty big matchup. I suppose Leinster will be thanking Toulouse for doing them a favour by beating Racing 92, which means Leinster gets to stay home for this one rather than having to travel to Paris. And yeah, I guess both sides had blood pressure inducing rising something. Quarterfinals, Leinster played Ulster and managed to get a very hard fought win, but it was a win. 21 points to 18. Very entertaining and close game, tense right until the last minute. And equally, if not more so, was Toulouse's victory over Racing in Paris. That was 22 points to 21, and that was playing with Zach Holmes red carded for the majority of that game. So yeah, 2 teams who've kind of come through the same pool. They've been on a fairly even footing for the most part, although they are very different teams in the way they play. Some of the stats kind of bear that out. But before I get to those, we'll just have a look at the lineups. I will put the lineups in the description so you guys can have a look. But the good news, I suppose, for Leinster fans is that Sexton is back at number 10. McGrath's there inside him. Lowe actually gets a game in Europe with that kind of rules around foreign players. Sometimes he misses out, but he is playing. Kearney's at fullback. Larmour's there. Ringrose, Henshaw. All of these big guns who haven't been playing kind of week in, week out. Healy, Cronin, Furlong, Toner, Ryan, Ruddock, O'Brien, Conan. Yeah, man, it's a pretty top class looking Leinster lineup. There's not much you would do about that in terms of changing things around. And then for Toulouse, an interesting one, I guess, with Zach Holmes being out, they've got Antoine Dupont as number 10. I've only ever really seen him play 9, but I will take any feedback on how he goes when he plays 10, because he is a very good player from what I've seen him at 9. He's very creative. So yeah, I guess we will see how he goes. Kolbe has been impressive all season. He's on one wing with Huget on the other. Ramos is there at fullback, Guitoune and Ahki in the midfield. It's a pretty solid looking side. Faumuina's in there. Likewise, Arnold, Gray. That's kind of, I don't know if Richie Arnold ever played for the Wallabies, but Gray certainly played for Scotland. So yeah, Kaino, Elstadt. It's a pretty classy looking lineup as well. Interestingly, Intamuk and Medard are on the bench, so there's a fair bit of talent to come in to add a bit of impact for Toulouse as well. Yeah, I guess in stats, like I mentioned, they are teams which have their own strengths. If you look at Leinster, they are the number 1 team for carries. They tend to have a fair bit of ball when they play. They are the number 2 team for tries, the number 2 team for points, the number 2 team for clean breaks, the number 2 team for run meters. They just have a lot of power in that team, and it kind of bears out in the stats. Sean Cronin is your top equal try scorer in Europe this season. Kind of tells you something that Leinster are about. For Toulouse, they are a top team, but kind of in different areas. They are the number 1 team for offloads. And if you compare that to Leinster's style, like Leinster are like 9th of all the Champions Cup teams, and they had like less than half of the offloads that Toulouse have played with. And if you saw that game against Racing, it was crazy kind of offloading. Typical, I guess, not typical, but I guess what you would imagine French rugby to be like when it's at its best. That was that Racing against Toulouse game. So also they are the number 1 team for defenders beaten. So Leinster are going to have to be on their game, not just with the ball, like the stuff that they are the top for. I mean, they're not the top team for tackles because they often have the ball more than the other side. They're making the other team make tackles. For Toulouse, yeah, number one for defenders beaten with 204. And 45 of those 204, so kind of almost a quarter, are just one man, and that's Kolbe. He's not a big guy, but he just makes other guys look silly sometimes when they try to get a hand on him. He just manages to get through. Very, very talented guy. Good footwork, elusive and strong. He is stronger than he looks. I guess you don't kind of judge him by just what you see, because he does look small and fragile, but nah, man, he is a proper tough warrior. So yeah, there's been a bit of interesting talk about this one ahead of the game, and that Leinster have kind of rotated a fair few players throughout the season between Europe and between the Pro 14, and also the fact that for Ireland, I guess a lot of those players would have been in that squad as well. So the number of players who have played kind of consistently week in for week out for Leinster is not as high as Toulouse. Toulouse, their players have played a lot more games this season with that Toulouse jersey on. So whether that's a factor or not kind of remains to be seen. Saying that, both teams are doing very well in their domestic competitions. In Conference B, the Pro 14 Leinster are top, 15 out of 20 wins, and 5 losses, but 20 games, 15 wins. And Toulouse are first in the top 14, 22 games, 17 wins. So very similar records. So there's not a whole lot between these two teams. That's kind of reflected in the fact that that they both got a win when they played each other in the pool stages. I suppose the one thing that's in Leinster's favour is the fact that they are at home. And when they did play at home, it wasn't actually that close. 29 points to 13 as a multiple score lead that they had. So if they could get something like that in this semi-final, they would be more than happy. When they were away, they only lost by a point. So yeah, you'd have to give that as a bit of an edge. But if you saw that game where Toulouse went into Paris and got a win, definitely not one to be written off. The bookies have got Leinster by 7 points for this one. So yeah, I guess not hugely comfortable, but a pretty strong favourite. But yeah, it's Toulouse, so who knows what's going to happen with this one. You guys let me know your thoughts on this game. How do you think it's going to go? Have a look at the lineups. Who are you kind of looking forward to seeing playing? Who do you think is going to make a big impact from the bench? And yeah, thank you to Tom. I never got to say thank you to Tom for sending this Leinster flag. The big one, and the jersey hat comes from Mark. But Tom sent me a couple of smaller Leinster flags which fit perfectly on the chair there. So thank you for that. I do not have any Toulouse gear. I don't have any top 14 gear, but there's a French jersey there, so everybody's represented. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. How do you think it's going to go? And I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.